Hi, I'm Mike Forman, and welcome to the Week 16 edition of The Grid. As you notice, my colleague Ray Castillo isn't here. He's off in La La Land, actually, doing some training. Hopefully, he'll be able to sneak in a Lakers game and get to go see LeBron. But we have plenty to do right here. We have three teams left going into the state semifinals. We lost a couple last week as we knew we'd lose at least one, but we lost a couple others we're a little disappointed about. But first of all, let's say congratulations to Shiner St. Paul for winning the TAPS Division 4 state championship. Amazing turnaround for the Cardinals. Started out 0-7, I believe, or 1-7, and just totally turned it around. Ended up winning state. Last week, I don't know how you had it pegged. It's always difficult to peg in the quarterfinals. Of course, we lost. Yoakum defeated Edna. We knew right there we were going to have one winner and one loser. And then in the Alamo Dome on kind of a Black Friday, I guess you'd call it, we lost both Refugio and Calhoun. Refugio losing to Mason. Interesting game there. I think Refugio would probably agree. Couple of things. One, that Shiner game I think took a lot out of them. And also Mason, they're number one team in the state for a reason. Very good team. Probably the biggest takeaway from that game is that Mason really won the battle up front, the line of scrimmage, and I think that was the difference. Calhoun and Cal Allen. Calhoun goes into halftime, they kick a field goal, they're up 17-14, but in the second half, not much went right. Cal Allen pretty much took control of that game and eliminated the Sand Crabs. So as we move into the semifinals this week, we have three teams left, and it starts tomorrow with Falls City. The Beavers coming off that very exciting win over Burton. Just a tremendous game to watch for the fans. Of course, Burton going for the field goal in the final seconds. It looked like they had got it and had won, but Falls City coach Britt Hart smartly called a timeout, and boy, he couldn't have timed it any better. Burton was already celebrating when they realized that there was a timeout. Came out, the next field goal was wide to the left. But the reward for the Beavers is Mart. And Mart just totally annihilated Munster. And Munster is the defending Division II state champion. Mart, of course, last season defeated Refugio in the Division I state final. And these teams will play at Georgetown ISD Athletic Complex. The game was originally scheduled for 7, but it's been moved to 5. So you want to leave a little earlier if you're planning to go to that game. I think the key here for Falls City, and they've said it, they're going to have to control the ball much like they did last week against Burton. Mart is so explosive that they can score in almost any play. So what you want to do is keep the ball out of Mart's hands. If Falls City can do this, they'll move on to the state final, which is scheduled for next Wednesday at AT&T Stadium. And moving on, we have the Yoakum Bulldogs in Class 3A Division I. A big victory over Edna. I mean, that was probably a shocker just how much the margin of victory was. But anybody who's seen Yoakum play in the playoffs wouldn't have been that surprised at how they did it. Yoakum has really come on at the right time. They just seem to have all the right pieces together. And they have people making plays when they need it. And that's a key when you go into the playoffs because you need everybody to kind of contribute. Yoakum's foe this week will be Grandview. They're the Zebras, and not too many zebras in the state of Texas. But Grandview advanced. They had to go to overtime. East Chambers scored first in overtime. Grandview scores, and they went for 2. Pretty gutsy move in the first overtime, and they completed a pass to win the game. So we have Yoakum and Grandview going Friday at 7 at the field in Pflugerville. Yoakum, of course, has been to the semifinals now 3 straight years. So quite an accomplishment for that program and Coach Bo Robinson. He's done a great job this year, kind of putting the pieces together because, we've said this a number of times. They lost 4 Division I players. And usually teams that lose 4 D1 guys don't come back in the semifinals. But they've done that, and they'll try to see if they can get past Grandview and make their second state appearance in 3 years. If they do that, they would play Thursday night at AT&T at 7 p.m. And finally, the Cuero Gobblers are back in the semifinals for the first time since 2015. The Gobblers had no trouble with Navarro. They were up 48-0. Basically, put all their reserves in. Navarro got a couple of late touchdowns, but Cuero just dominated that game as they have throughout the playoffs. Now, moving on, this will be a tougher task. They're going to play Silsbee, and this game is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Friday at Legacy Field or Legacy Stadium in Katy. It's one of the newer facilities. I've never seen it. I've looked at pictures online, and it looks beautiful. So Cuero will go up there. Of course, they know that Silsbee eliminated West Orange Stark. There were district opponents of West Orange Stark, and West Orange Stark actually beat them in district, and then they reversed the outcome last week. They hit on a couple of big plays, which is kind of the way they do things at Silsbee. They've been very successful with big plays. That's one thing Cuero's going to have to eliminate. And Cuero's also going to have to continue the offensive success it's had. Cuero, of course, is trying to go to the state final for the 11th time, which is pretty impressive number. The last time the Gobblers went to state was 2004. They ended up playing Abilene Wiley, and they lost that game to Wiley in the final seconds of that game on a field goal. So I'm sure Cuero's anxious to get back to state. And if they do go to state, they will play Friday morning at 11 a.m. So we have 3 teams, of course, going in. I guess if you'd have told us way back in August when this started, you'll have 3 teams in the semifinals, you'd probably be pretty happy about that, although we were kind of hoping we'd have 5. But this is a good accomplishment for these teams. And the thing is, this Friday will determine, and tomorrow will determine, whether these teams take the last step and go to state. And always a thrill to play at AT&T Stadium. And don't worry, we'll keep you up to date. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can follow us on the website. We'll have all the details of what happens. And next week, one way or another, we hope as a preview for the state final, but one way or another, we'll be back with the final edition of the Grid.